Hi, welcome to Dr. Gaynor Speaks podcast. I am your host, Dr. Brianna Gaynor. I am a clinical psychologist and I am also a transformational speaker. I'm very passionate about demystifying the stigma of mental illness. So, if you joined us, this is the second part of our series, and what we're discussing today and finishing up is navigating the invisible power structures at work. So, if you didn't catch last week or you need a refresher, let me let you know a little bit about what we talked about last week. In terms of navigating the invisible power structures at work, what we're talking about are the things that are unseen, the people who are able to get things done that maybe does not start with management. Really understanding how a workplace flows, how it works, how the community connects, how to get things done is really going to be essential to success in your workplace. And so we talked about there being three different networks. So in terms of navigating these invisible power structures, first we have to kind of map out what that structure looks like in your office space. So there are generally three networks. The first are identifying the people who people trust. Who do you go to that you trust with things? And then also identifying the advice network. Who are the people go to for advice? And then finally, the communication network. Who are the people who people are talking to get things done, who know the ins and outs? And so one of the things I tasked you with is to go and to talk to someone who you haven't talked to before, who's maybe in a department that you're not familiar with, and sit with them, ask them what they see from their perspective, but really understanding other people's perspective, especially those people who may have connections that you don't have, can really help in navigating these power structures. Then we talked about how to de-escalate high conflict personalities, because in work we are all different, and a lot of times conflict can arise for so many different reasons. And so one of the mistakes or the struggles that we can have is wanting to defend ourselves, which is absolutely normal. But a lot of times that approach and dealing with someone who has a high conflict personality is going to make it worse. And so what can we do instead? What we discussed was the CARS method. C means first we are going to connect. That sounds weird, but connection is the first way to lower all of our defenses. We're going to connect with the person. We're going to analyze what the situation is and really figure out what is the real problem in this conflict. And then we're going to respond. Respond in a way that really focuses on facts, not emotions. And finally, the S is we're going to set our boundaries. We are going to identify how this can go moving forward, but once we create that connection, we analyze what's going on so we can take emotions out of it and respond. Then we can set a boundary that's based on respect and clear facts that will help to not incite more conflict. So that's where we stopped last week. So today I wanted to make this its own conversation because I think it's important. And what we're talking about today is how to turn your ally or your rival into an ally. How to turn your rival into an ally. The truth is we are at work so many hours of the day, and especially if you're doing something that you're passionate about, that you're challenged about, that you enjoy, then we want to make sure that we are getting all the bang for our buck, that we are getting what we want to get out of it, and we're having a worthwhile experience. And a lot of that is based on the people that we're dealing with, because we're working with people all the time, even if we're not necessarily doing customer service, right? So there's a concept in game theory, and it's called non-zero sum game. The idea behind it is, in many situations, your success does not require my failure. In fact, our cooperation creates a bigger a bigger piece of the pie for both of us. So non-zero sum game means both of us working together makes it better than us trying to work against each other, right? But when we have a rival, our amygdala, which is our fear center in our brain, it convinces us that this is not true, that it's actually a zero-sum game, that if they shine, I dull. If they get the budget, I lose it. Whatever they're getting is going to cause my demise. And that's not what we want. And so High emotional intelligence in all situations, but particularly in this situation, is trying to override that instinct and find the overlap. What we're trying to do is turn our rival into our ally. We're trying to shift the mindset of competition to having shared objectives and goals. So, not how we were working against each other, how can I one up you, but how can we actually work together to make this better? So, how do we do that? So, I want to give you 3 steps that I think will be really instrumental in helping change this situation, helping to turn your rival into your ally. So, the first is reframing the relationship. It all has to start with how we're thinking about it, because how we think impacts our behavior and how we approach a situation. And so, first, not seeing your rival as your enemy, but as a peer with complementary skills. A lot of time, if you guys are in this situation, if you see someone as your competitor, then you probably are good at similar things. But you also might have different strengths. Maybe you're the strategist, maybe they're the executor, maybe you're creative, maybe they're financial. First, identify what those things are. What are they good at and what are their strengths? Also, what are you good at and what are your strengths? Just because you guys do the same thing, we all approach things in different ways. So, really being able to identify the positives of both of those things can help you see how your skills can work pretty complementary. I have a friend who we are both psychologists. We both own a practice, but we tend to approach things in different ways. She is really good about kind of seeing the big picture and what the future goals are of her business, and I'm good at seeing the day-to-day things and how to create the community within the business, right? So we're both doing a great job in both of those areas, but because I know I'm particularly good in one thing and she is in another, how do we come together and talk about these things to make both of those areas good in both of our businesses? How do we start to actually complement each other? And what I found is, for me, I really had to start to identify and embrace not only what I was good at, but what someone else was good at, so that I could appreciate how both could work together. So, not looking at it as you're better than me or vice versa, but how do we work together? How do our strengths really coincide? It's important for us to consider that first before you approach the person, right? So now, step 2 is initiating a low stakes collaboration. So it's not, we're going to take over the company, we're going to do this together, we're going to be best friends. It's not extreme. It's more like creating a small public opportunity to cooperate. So maybe there is a project that you're working on and you're asking for a minor part in that. So maybe you're asking this person, hey, I know you have a really good eye for data. Can you look at this for me and maybe suggest something that maybe I'm missing? You're giving them an opportunity in public, asking them their opinion. It shows a level of respect. And then by asking for your help, you're signaling, hey, I see what's important about you. And again, it's creating respect, it's reducing that armor, it's lowering your sword. And if they help you, then there is a psychological investment. So, fun fact, it's the Ben Franklin effect. Have you ever heard of that before? Well, the Ben Franklin effect is if someone does you a favor, they are more likely to do you another one because their brain wants to be consistent in thinking of you well. Let me say that again. The Ben Franklin effect. If someone does you a favor, they are more likely to do it again because their brain wants to be consistent in thinking well of you. So that thought, that connection that you're creating actually creates their brain wanting to do more of that. So once we have that low stakes collaboration, then we can move on to step 3. And step 3 is, what is our shared goal? Maybe our shared villain. So in any organization, there are macro goals that can take over individual competition because it impacts everyone. So is there a department that always slows you down? There's a looming budget. There's a competitor that's affecting the bottom line. That's not just affecting you and your goals or them and their goals. That's affecting the company as a whole. So once you can identify what that external threat is, then the truth is, look, this is impacting both of us. How can we work together to address this so that we can both get a piece of the pie. It's not just impacting me or impacting you, but this is going to make everything better. How do we work together on this shared goal that impacts both of us in order to make this better? By really being able to see what we both bring to the table, having already started a situation where we are open to being cooperative and wanting to have more of that Ben Franklin effect. And then we can start to see each other as coworkers and a support system to get the overall goals done. That doesn't mean that there won't be other situations where that could happen, but if you can utilize these 3 steps, it will help you to be able to work better with people in general. And the truth is, if you're thinking about your goals overall, a lot of us will be moved up into situations where we will be leaders, where we will have to help other people. So, how can you not only start to create better situations for yourself in these environments, but also pass this on to someone else to help them with the pitfalls that can come when you're working with people and you're feeling like you're in competition? So, navigating the invisible structures in work, it isn't about being manipulative, it's about being observant. It's about realizing that the map is just a skeleton, but the relationships are the lifeblood. A lot of times we can't do what we can do. We can't do anything as well as we can when we're working together. Us working together is just what's going to make everything better because we are working with people. So how do we create situations where we all feel valued, we're all working towards a common goal, no one feel like someone else is trying to undermine them, and we know that ultimately we are doing our best and it's profitable for all of us. So whether you're mapping the real power, you're de-escalating a conflict, you are learning how to turn your rival into an ally, it's really important that we pay attention to our interactions because people may forget what the project was that you worked on with them, but they will never forget the feeling that they left with when they worked with you. They will always remember how you made them feel in every situation. So let's leave these situations better than we left them for us and for the people that we work with. I'm Dr. Brianna Gaynor. Thank you for spending this time with me on emotional intelligence in the workplace. I hope that you have enjoyed this. If there's someone you know who could benefit from this, please feel free to share it. And take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I look forward to seeing you again soon on Dr. Gaynor Speaks. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Dr. Gaynor Speaks on Facebook and on Instagram. I also have a YouTube page, Dr. Brianna Gaynor. Feel free to follow, like, and subscribe. And until next time, take care.